Have you ever wondered, could there be a country whose beauty on the surface leaves you in awe, but right beneath that beauty, something is hidden, something so mysterious that it sends a chill down your spine? No, this isn't a movie plot. This is real. There are places in the world where history isn't just written in books. There, history lies buried beneath the ground, waiting for someone to uncover it. And in today's documentary, we are going to step into such a country, where beneath every city lies another hidden city. Inside every mountain, there are untold stories, and behind every silent place, there are truths that science still cannot fully explain. And if you truly enjoy mysterious, unknown, real-life documentary stories like this, then make sure to subscribe to our channel right now, because the ending of today's story might completely change the way you see the world. Because today, we will uncover 7 real mysteries that are not just history, but still exist around us even today. And the most terrifying truth will be revealed at the very end. The first mystery begins in the middle of a silent desert. From a distance, the place looks completely ordinary. Just a few stone mounds, sun-scorched earth, and silence all around. But if you step closer and climb up that stone structure and look inside, what you will see is something you won't easily forget. A circular stone platform with a deep pit in the center. At first, it may seem like an ancient structure, but the truth is far more disturbing. Once, dead bodies were brought here. They were not buried, they were not burned. Instead, they were left under the open sky. And then, the birds would come. Large vultures, dozens, sometimes hundreds. Within just a few hours, they would strip everything from the body. Only bones would remain. This practice continued for thousands of years, because they believed the earth, fire, and water are sacred, and a dead body must not contaminate them. But the strangest part is, this practice isn't ancient history. Even just a few decades ago, this ritual was still being carried out. Can you imagine that? Not too long ago, people witnessed this with their own eyes. Some locals still say, back then, if you saw vultures circling in the sky, you knew somewhere a body had been placed, and the smell in the air, something they say they can never forget. But it doesn't end there, because as the cities began to expand and people started living closer to these places, problems began to arise. The number of vultures started to decline, and the bodies would remain exposed for longer. The smell spread into nearby areas. Eventually, the government put an end to this practice. But the question still remains. Why did a tradition that lasted for thousands of years suddenly come to an end? Was it only because of modernization, or was there something more behind it? And there's something even more strange. When you stand there today, the wind moves quietly. Everything feels calm. But many people say, when you stand there, you feel something unusual, as if someone is watching you. But around you, there's no one. So is it just an illusion of the mind, or do these places truly hold something? Memories, energy, or something else? And that was just the first mystery. In the next part, we will go to a place where an entire village was suddenly abandoned. People left, but they left behind signs that still cannot be explained. And the most frightening part, even today, locals refuse to go near that place after sunset. Why? To find out, you'll have to watch the next part. But what if I told you these mysteries are not just ancient rituals or forgotten history? They still exist, just in different forms, in different places, and much deeper. In the first part, we saw a ritual involving the dead, something beyond normal human understanding. But now, we are heading to a place where even the living could not remain. An abandoned village in the middle of a mountainous region, surrounded by rocky land, a few broken houses, open doors, and an eerie silence. From a distance, it looks like just another abandoned place. But as you get closer, you begin to realize something isn't right. Because here, everything is still there, except the people. Inside the houses, old furniture still remains. In one corner, a child's toy. In some homes, cooking utensils. as if people suddenly left everything behind and disappeared. But why? When you ask the locals this question, they don't answer directly. They simply say, "Make sure you leave before sunset, because once night falls, this place changes." Many people claim that at night, sounds come from this village. Footsteps, doors opening, sometimes whispers. But there, no one lives. At first, all of this was considered nothing more than rumor, but later, some researchers went there. They thought there must be a natural explanation behind it. And to be honest, they did find some answers. Beneath this village, there is a geological fault line. From it, certain gases are released, which can affect the human brain. Because of these gases, people may experience hallucinations, hear strange sounds, feel fear without any reason. So, is this entire mystery just science? Maybe, but there's a problem. Those who experienced it, their descriptions are strikingly similar. The same kinds of sounds, the same feelings, the same sense of someone's presence. Is that just a coincidence? Or is there really something in this place that we still don't understand? But the story doesn't stop here, because now we're going even deeper, beneath the ground. Sometime after the year 2000, a local man was digging a well beside his house. Suddenly, the ground beneath his feet collapsed, and he fell into darkness. At first, it seemed like an accident, but when people went down to rescue him, what they discovered changed history itself. A massive underground city, narrow passageways, hidden rooms, ventilation shafts, even a system for water. This wasn't just a cave, this was a planned city, a place where people used to hide, to escape from enemies. The passages were deliberately narrow so that large groups couldn't enter at once. In some areas, there were traps. Take the wrong path and you could fall straight into a deep pit. Imagine this. Hundreds of years ago, people built a city like this, where they could survive for days, hidden in complete darkness. But do you know the most touching discovery? A small sandal, a child's, found inside that underground city. It proves it wasn't just adults in that darkness. Children were there too. Children who may not have even known what they were running from. Above ground, war, violence, death. And below, darkness, silent waiting. Is this just history, or the most real form of human fear? Now pause for a moment and think. The world we see above may have another world hidden beneath it, where history is still alive, where every wall, every passage tells a story. But the strangest part is still yet to come, because there are places where it's not just sounds or feelings, even nature itself behaves differently, where after night falls, unusual sounds are heard, temperature suddenly drops, and even scientists admit they cannot fully explain it. So what really happens there? And if you think these mysteries are only man-made or just dark chapters of history, then what you're about to hear next will completely change your perception. Because now we are heading to a place where not just humans, even nature acts strangely. A narrow valley surrounded by mountains, towering rock walls on all sides, and a thin river flowing through the middle. During the day, everything feels normal. Bird sounds, a gentle breeze, a typical mountain landscape. But after sunset, everything changes. Locals call this place the Forbidden Valley. Because they know, something happens here at night. At first, strange sounds can be heard. No, it's not the wind, not the river. It's like a deep vibration coming from inside the rocks. Slowly, the sound grows stronger. Sometimes it feels like someone is striking stone. Sometimes it feels like someone is chanting in a constant tone. But around you, there is no one. Researchers tried to record the sounds in this place. They also proposed some explanations. There might be hollow sections inside the mountains where wind creates vibrations. The river flowing through narrow channels may create resonance. Sounds reasonable, right? But what happened next raises serious questions about all those explanations. A group of researchers decided to spend the night there. They set up temperature sensors, recorded sounds, documented everything. For the first few hours, everything was normal. Then suddenly, the temperature dropped by 8 to 10 degrees within minutes. No storm, no rain, no change in weather. Everything stayed the same. Yet the temperature suddenly fell. After some time, everything returned to normal again. Even the scientists admitted they could not provide a clear explanation. Now a question arises. Is this just a natural phenomenon, or is it some kind of signal that we still don't understand? The locals believe something else exists in that place. They say, after nightfall, if you go into that valley, you are not alone. You will feel someone is following you, but you won't see anyone. Now pause again. In the first part, we saw a terrifying human ritual. In the second, an abandoned village and an underground city. And now, a place where even nature behaves abnormally. So the question returns once again. Is there any connection between all of these, or are they just separate mysteries? But the biggest part of the story is still ahead, because now we are moving toward a reality that is not limited to one place, but an entire country. So far, everything we've seen may have felt like separate mysteries, but now everything starts to connect. Because this final mystery is not just about the past, it is happening right now. And the most terrifying part, it cannot be stopped. Imagine this, you are living in a city. Everything seems normal, roads, houses, people. But slowly, the ground beneath your feet starts sinking. No earthquake, no explosion, everything is happening silently. In recent years, scientists have discovered something alarming. In many regions of the country, the ground is sinking by 20 to 30 centimeters every year. In some places, it has sunk several meters within just a few years. The result? Roads are cracking, walls of houses are splitting. In many places, people are being forced to leave their homes. But the problem is, this process cannot be stopped. Why? Groundwater. For years, excessive extraction of underground water has left empty spaces beneath the surface. And into those empty spaces, the land is slowly collapsing. Do you know the most frightening part? This is not a sudden disaster. It's happening slowly. Day after day, year after year. No sound, no warning. But one day, everything could collapse. Now think again. In the first mystery, people left bodies under the open sky. In the second, people hid beneath the ground. In the third, nature itself behaved strangely. And now, the ground